Hi, this is Misha, and had all the other Argentinian guns out, so I thought, why not bring out the FMK-3 again. We did a video a couple of years ago on this, but it's been a while, and why not? It's a very interesting gun. This is really, it's not a clone or a copy of anything as such. Sorry, this stock is really stiff, folks. There we go. Which is good. Stiff is good. But it does take heavy influence from a couple of other guns. After World War II, the FM factory in Argentina produced a licensed version of the M3 Grease Gun as the PAM1, and then it would do the M3A1 with the updated cocking assembly is the PAM2. These are very similar to the Grease Gun, yet they were in 9x19 parabellum rather than 45. Which is a little interesting because if you look back before, hi Hobo, Argentina was one of the few countries to actually use the 45 cartridge. They produced under license a copy of the Colt 1911 as the M27, and they also had a domestic version more or less based on the Star Model B as the Ballester Molina. So it's kind of interesting that with their submachine gun they went with 9mm. However, they were already starting to transition over, as evidenced by their adoption of the high power. In the end, though, they wanted to have their own submachine gun and something a little more modern and up to date. So in 1974, they adopted this gun here, the FMK-3. This is the standard model used by the Argentinian military. In fact, it is still in use today. So what do we have? Well, as you saw, we have a retractable stock. This is very much a la Grease Gun. Wire retracting. I will say it is a much stabler stock. It's a very solid feeling stock here. Very little wiggle to it. And that's thanks to these large, long guides and a very large, let me flip it back around, catch button here. Also from the Grease Gun, we have a tubular upper receiver. And we take a Grease Gun type sling. So there's certainly some influence there. However, we also take a lot from the Israeli Uzi. As you notice, we have the magazine in the grip here. So this whole assembly is very Uzi-like. We have a grip safety. It's a different style. Frankly, I think it's more ergonomic than on an Uzi. Actually, a lot more ergonomic, frankly, because it's larger and just easier to use, but it's still the grip safety notion. We also have a selector here. Different style. This rotates whereas an Uzi slides, but we do have a 3-position selector, and the trigger is not too dissimilar. The handguard is also not very dissimilar at all. No bayonet lug though. And we have a muzzle nut holding the barrel like on an Uzi. Different styling, but same concept. And much like the Uzi, which had a 10-inch barrel, we have a pretty long barrel on this thing. The original barrel, it goes out to about right here, and it is nearly 11.5 inches. This is why we built this as a carbine and semi-auto, because it's easier to add about 5 inches than it is to not have a stock. It is a very weighty gun. And probably most importantly from the Uzi, we have the magazines themselves. These mags are so close to Uzi mags that they will actually work in Uzis. And if you notice, we even have a cutout on the side here for an Uzi mag catch, because the the FMK mag catch on the back is actually on the back here. Where is it at? Yeah. See that little notch? but these are actually notched for Uzis. Now the difference is the grip. The length of the grip is a little longer on the FMK, so these guides, to make sure it's not over inserted, are a little further down. Otherwise though, we still have the style of double stack, double feed mag. And really, Israel more or less copied this mag type from the Beretta MAB-38 series. But it's a very good mag. It's reliable, easy to load. This one holds 40 rounds. They also produced a 25 round short version, which really just comes to the edge of the mag well. I just thought for the video, I know you guys, you want to see the big long one. So there's definitely some Uzi influence. There's some other stuff. Oh, and just to say, this does use the bolt system where the majority of the bolt is actually in front of the ejection port. This is either attributed to the Czech VZ23/25 or the Uzi, depending on who you ask. Really, they were developed basically concurrently. To charge the weapon, we have a left side cocking handle here, knurled. We have even have a dust cover behind the latch. What's nice about this, it's non-reciprocating. It has a spring in it, so as the bolt moves, the cocking handle will stay forward, and it even brings itself back forward, which is something that not all submachine guns will do. Some of them, like on the MAT 49, you have to manually push forward. The sights are also quite nice, for a submachine gun especially. We have an easily adjustable rear sight with 2 notches, doot and doot, and you just press it in here. You press in to unlock it, and then you rotate, and when you let go, it locks itself. So you're not going to accidentally adjust it, at least not without trying, because when it's locked, you can't rotate, you have to press in. So I thought that was a really small but thoughtful feature. The front sight is adjustable via tool. Nice post there, I'm going to point it at you. Nice large protector, kind of a Mauser style, with a hole in the top for the tool to go in. So very good sights for this gun. This is an all metal gun except for the handguard, even the grip is metal. And it shows. This thing weighs, it's about 7.5 pounds. And it's not terribly compact. It's well over 2 foot with the stock extended. I believe it's about 28 inches. And it's over 1.5 foot with the stock retracted. I believe it's around 21 inches. So it is not a small gun. It was not a gun designed for being a PDW or what we would think of as a modern submachine gun where size and weight are important. This was designed definitely along the same lines as, say, a Thompson, PPSH-41, of course the Grease Gun, the Uzi, which it took influence from. This is a full-size military submachine gun. It was built to be tough and rugged. And it shows, because these are still in service since 1974 in Argentina today. Now they have tried to update them a little bit. They've introduced a few different styles of stock. They've introduced Picatinny rail adapters, but basically it's still just a 9mm submachine gun doing what it needs to do. The -3 version has this wire stock, as you see. There's also a -4 with a fixed stock. I believe they've done both polymer and wood fixed stocks. And there's a -5, which is a semi-auto civilian or police carbine sold in Argentina. It was never imported into the US. And it was still an open bolt anyway, so it would have had a hard time getting in after 1981. That said, I do know someone who at one time was able to get one of the FMK-5s imported as a personal private firearm, but this was a long time ago. But they did officially make a semi-auto version down at the FM factory, which is kind of interesting. You don't typically see that with a lot of Cold War era submachine guns. Argentina has taken a lot of pride in this, and While it has been adopted by a tiny number of other nations, most in South America, really this is an Argentine exclusive. Really the Argentine army is about the only major user of these. But it gave them kind of something unique. In total, they would build about 30,000, at least that's what Wikipedia says, and that seems about right for single use like that. And recently in America, these have become popular because the parts kits have been available, and available very cheap with original barrels. So a complete parts kit, even with receiver sections. No one that I'm aware of does semi-auto conversions, which is kind of weird. You'd think they would. But, yeah. Maybe one day someone will do it. This one is, of course, a custom one that we did. It's legal, closed bolt. We use a blocking bar. The selector is blocked, as is the trigger group. Basically using the same mentality as you would with a semi-automatic Uzi, because mechanically it's not too dissimilar. One unique feature, though, with something like an Uzi or a grease gun, you have the recoil spring behind the bolt. But as you see, the receiver is mostly out front. This is because of that wraparound bolt style we talked about. See? So once this comes back a ways, there's not much room left back here. Where the recoil spring is? Well, it is actually around the barrel leading into the bolt in the front. So the spring actually is pushed, is expanded by the firing cartridge, or not really firing cartridge, yeah, when it fires, expands back, and then it locks the bolt open on the military. And then when the trigger is pulled and the bolt goes forward, the spring collapses again, pulling the bolt forward. So the spring is in the front. The one gun you might be familiar with that does something kind of similar is the SIG 550 or the SIG 556. It also has a recoil spring. It's just kind of interesting, and it made semi-auto conversion both easier and more difficult, but you got it done. Fun little gun, and of course, because it's so heavy, there's no recoil with 9mm, and thankfully magazines, both 25 and 40 rounds, are easily found. So a neat gun. If you're looking for an interesting parts kit to pick up, these are still not super expensive, and might be worth something to look into. Anyway, like I said, we just kind of brought it out to complete our Argentine set for the day. So here it is, the domestically created, developed Argentine FMK-3 submachine gun. Oops. We have quite a few semi-auto conversions of subguns, so if this kind of thing interests you, check those videos out. If you liked the video, please click like, and if you'd like to help support us, please check out the link to our Patreon page. This is Misha, and we'll catch you next time.